Today's shir is for the full shlema of Yitzchak ben Devora, Adina bat Chana, Eliyahu ben Tzipora, Ruchama Sarah Miriam bat Tamar, and Miriam Devora bat Chaya Liora. So, come back from Israel, two parashiyot together. So much to talk about in these two parashiyot of Tazria and Metzora. I'm going to concentrate in the main on Parashat Metzora. I want to have a little insight from the first parasha, Tazria, and that's really the title of my shir today, because Tazria talks initially about what happens when a woman gives birth, the cycle of life. So what happens to her? She has to bring a korban. What type of korban does she bring? She brings a dove. Now, there are two types of doves. I've actually mentioned this chiddush before, but it's worth mentioning it again. There are two types of doves that are normally bought as korbanot. There is the tor, and there is the ben yonah. What's the difference between the tor and the ben yonah? Well, mostly when there's an offering to be bought from doves, it's mostly the tor that is the one that has precedence. But in this case of the woman giving birth, we know from the pasuk that the ben yonah is bought. Why is this korban different from all other korbanot? To borrow from a phrase that we heard a couple of weeks ago, to paraphrase. Well, there is a specific difference between these two birds in their physical nature. Because we know that the tor, when it has a mate, it keeps the mate for its entire life. Tor is a very loyal bird. Once the mate dies, the Torah will never find another mate, the female. Now, what is the difference between that and the ben yonah? The ben yonah, if the mate dies, the ben yonah will go and find another mate. We'll carry on mating. This is the nature of the ben yonah. So why does the ben yonah have... Do you mind closing the door? So we're actually video recording at the moment. Sorry. Why does the ben yonah have precedence over here? Because with this specific korban, only one bird is bought. Normally birds are bought in pairs. Over here, it's only bought as a single bird. So what would then happen? If you take a single bird and you offer it up, and it happens to be a tor, which has the extreme loyalty, then what will happen? The tor will now be left bereft without a mate and would stay single, like a widow or a widower throughout the rest of its life. But if it would be a ben yonah, as in this case, then it would just the mate would just go and find another mate, and that would be it. Would suffer no traumatic depression or anything like that, just goes and marries again. So in this particular case, because we know there's only one bird bought, the Torah is showing us the sensitivity of the Torah towards the well-being of a bird. Just a bird we're talking about. We're not talking about anything more than a bird, because we don't want the bird to be single and stay its whole life. So we pick a ben yonah who will be able to find another mate. Now, if this is the case, the Torah is showing us sensitivity towards the feelings of a bird. How much more so should we show sensitivity for people? Don't put people in situations where they're going to be in pain or in sorrow and not be able to get over that pain. You should never put a person in pain. But over here also there's another point, because we're showing the reward for loyalty. The tor is a bird that exhibits loyalty to the extreme with its mate. Therefore, we choose to bypass this bird and move to another bird who does not demonstrate the same loyalty to its mate. It shows another thing, another lesson we can learn from here. How powerful Hashem in His Holy Torah emphasizes on the trait of loyalty. Because in truth, we're all loyal servants of Hashem. We're supposed to show our ultimate loyalty. We're supposed to stick to Hashem and not go for any other. Okay. Now we're moving on to Parashat Metzorah. And this is really the bulk of tonight's shir. So it says in Parashat Metzorah, let's talk about what the Metzorah is first and foremost. Metzorah is a person suffering from the physical, spiritual ailment called tzara'at. Tzara'at, again, I can't really translate it properly. It's one of those words you can't translate. The Art Scroll translates it. It translates it as leprosy, I think, which is, it just says tzara'at, affliction. Even the Art Scroll can't translate it. So let's just call it tzara'at. It's a skin discoloration. It's a spot on the skin that develops on a person who has sinned a certain type of sin. Most frequently, we understand the sin that a person has done is the sin of Lashon Hara. But there you'll see later, Bezrat Hashem, we're going to talk about another idea, what the specific sin is that the person has done. But let's go with the simple interpretation. If a person says Lashon Hara, then there would be a sequence of events that would happen to this fellow. What would happen initially? The three stages are as follows. First, there would be a discoloration on the house. Would develop these blotches, discolorations. Then, if that wouldn't do the trick, if that part of the process would be unheeded, then the tzara'at would proceed to the person's clothes. And if it would still remain unheeded, it would proceed, lo aleinu, onto the person's flesh. And then he's now got to go and seek the help of the Kohen. So that's in short what happens with the Metzorah. So what happens if it gets through to stage 3? You've got 3rd degree burns now. You've had the house, you had the clothes, now it's on his body, it's on his arm, it's on his face, wherever it is. So what happens? The Kohen takes a look at him. If he declares that this person is tameh, is impure, he says to him, I'm sorry, Mr. So-and-so, whatever his name is, Mr. Bernstein, or Mr. Goldwasser, I'm afraid you'll have to leave the holy camp of Israel. You've got to go out of the camp, stay there until further notice. Oh, and while you're there, walk around saying tameh, tameh. Okay, you got that? In a nutshell. Obviously, there's more to it than that. But there's something which most people don't know. And that is something incredible, which is, the Pasuk tells us, that if a person sees one of these discolorations, one of these blotches or spots on his skin, if he manages to get rid of it, if he cuts it off, if he removes it, then he's considered tahor. He's considered pure. If he doesn't remove it, then he has to go to the Kohen, and the Kohen will decide, is he pure or is he impure? Now this is baffling. You're trying to tell me, if you see one of these spots, which is not, again, it's not a purely physical thing. It's a physical manifestation, but it's a reaction to a spiritual blemish, which, as we're speaking now, we're talking about Lashon Hara. So if the physical manifestation shows up on a person's body, he can cut it off he becomes pure? I don't understand it. To me, if I didn't know any better, I would say this is a no-brainer. A person, he sees something on his skin like that, why does he have to go and fess up to the Kohen? Cut it off. You're automatically poor, end of story. Well, you have to go out the camp, run around saying, Tameh, Tameh. Well, you have to go through this whole procedure. Just get rid of it and forget it. Move on. Just too many other things to worry about. So I'll tell you a nice mashal that isn't specifically applied to this scenario. It's a mashal that's very powerful, and it's a specific relevance to me because I came home very early this morning on the plane, and it's a mashal by Rav Lezer Brody, and he says as follows. Imagine, I'm expanding on it a little bit. Imagine if you're on a plane and you're sitting strapped in, everything's fine and dandy, and you're eating your hamolis meal, and it's all going well, and you sit at Tfilat Derech already, and then suddenly the plane starts juddering and shaking. This is actually what happened to me and my family yesterday. We were on the plane. There's always turbulence. Planes have turbulence. They're not smooth rides completely, but they developed. It was like a crazy turbulence we had for about a minute. The plane was shaking like a lulav, and then suddenly they announced on the airplane, so and so to the cockpit immediately, and that's when we started panicking a little bit. We thought, oh my gosh, they're going to have a big meeting, and they say what we're going to do. Anyway, as it happens, it stopped after a minute, and Baruch Hashem, the rest of the flight was uneventful. Anyway, back to the mashal. Imagine if you're in a plane and you feel this turbulence, and you're a bit worried, you don't know what to do. Let's switch now to the scenario in the cockpit when there's the turbulence. What's going to be with the pilot and the co-pilot, etc.? So the plane is shaking, and the pilot doesn't seem to be perturbed. The co-pilot, he's not as experienced as the pilot. He hasn't been on as many plane trips as many other co-pilots. He's relatively inexperienced. And the co-pilot looks at the flight panel. He sees there's a red light flashing, blinking on and off, beep, beep, beep. And he looks at this red light, and he's looking closely, and he sees this is a warning light. There's something wrong with one of the engines. So straight away he turns to the pilot, he goes, do you see that? The red light is flashing. What are you going to do about it? The pilot hardly takes any notice, so turns his head a little bit, and he carries on. The co-pilot again he thought maybe the pilot didn't really understand what he was talking about. He says, look, you see the red lights flashing there, look, there's something wrong with the engine. So now the pilot gets visibly disturbed. He goes, what do you mean that? He takes his fist, boom, bangs on the light, and then the light stops flashing. He says, that's fixed the problem now. Now, anything else? The co-pilot says, what have you just done? So the pilot says, I fixed it. You told me it was flashing and I fixed it. He said, but that's not the point. You haven't fixed the problem. There's something wrong with the engine. You just fixed the light. You see what Rav Lezer Brody is telling us? The nega, the tarat spots on the person, that's just like the red warning light. You can get rid of it and everything can be fine. You can be declared pure, no problem. Now go back and see. But you've just destroyed the red light, the flashing warning light. You haven't destroyed the problem. The problem's still there. Even though you yourself have made yourself pure. You're no longer a threat, but you're a threat to yourself. You haven't fixed the problem. You've just knocked out the symptom. And that's why it's so important to understand that when you have an issue like this, when a person is given a warning light from Hashem that you've said Lashon Hara, you've got to take note straight away. You can't just knock it out and think that's going to be the end of it. Sweep it under the rug. It's got to be dealt with in the correct way. If you knock out the symptom, you've done nothing. You're only fooling yourself. Let's get back to the 3-stage process that happens to the Metzora. Now, there's a very interesting concept which we talked about in last year's shiur, which was called Never Alone. There's also, we mentioned a lot about the Metzora in that shiur. But there's something that happens at stage 1, when the Metzora goes on the house. Because Hashem tells us, when you go into Canaan, and you go to all these Canaanites' houses, and you see there Tzarat on the house. Yeah? If a person goes to Canaan, he's living in a Canaanite house, and whatever happens, and for some reason, whatever sin he does, he gets this Tzarat on the house. What happens? He has to go and break down the house. And Hashem says, when you break the house, you're going to find a little present. Because the previous tenants didn't want any of their precious belongings to go astray when they were, how should we say, evacuated from Israel. Because what happens? You go into Israel, when the Jews went into Israel, they got rid of all the Canaanites. But the Canaanites knew that if they were killed, that all their loot, all their belongings will go to the Jews. And they were so spiteful and so evil, so wicked, that they didn't want the Jews to benefit from their belongings. So they hid them inside the houses. They buried them in the walls so that nobody could have them. It's that mentality. If I can't have it, nobody can have it. It's like the Aguna mentality. A person, Lo Aleinu, when they get married and it doesn't work out, they get divorced. The husband doesn't want to divorce his wife. He says, if she doesn't want me, nobody's going to have her. It's a ridiculous mentality. It's so wrong on so many levels. So this was the mentality of the Emorim, or whoever it was, the Canaanim. They said, no, we know we're going to be got rid of, but we don't want anyone to benefit from our wealth, so we're going to hide it away. We don't want those Jews to have any benefit. What did Hashem say? When you go in, and for whatever reason you do an Aveira, Lashon Hara, whatever it is, and then you have to knock down the walls of the house to get rid of the Tzarat, you're going to find loads of money there. So the burning question here that should be screaming out to us is the fact that it sounds like a person does an Aveira and it gets a reward. What type of thing is that? It makes Aveiras very appealing. So we should be turning around to Hashem and saying, if that's the deal, show me which Aveiras are going to get the rewards. I'll be very happy to do them. Tell me, I've got no problem with getting Canaanite wealth. Show me which Aveiras to do, and I'll be happy to do them. Of course, this is absurd and ridiculous. So why did Hashem find a way? Or you can ask another question. If Hashem wanted us to have this wealth, why did it have to come through this way? Just say that, look, Hashem would say, go, X marks the spot, go and dig over there, and then you'll find all the wealth. Or we should make it rain down from Shemayim. Why have this whole rigmarole? You've got to do an Aveira, and then knock down the wall. What is all this? So there are 3 different reasons, I'm going to tell you briefly, which will answer and show us the lesson we have of the gold within the walls. Answer number 1 is that you have to understand that this was only the first stage. This was the pre-warning, the pre-warning, if you want to say such a thing. So a person's already committed an Aveira. Again, we're using the example, the most common pshat, which is that this is a reaction, the Tzarat is a reaction for Lashon Hara. So a person says Lashon Hara, straight away the house gets all these things. So now what does a person do? If he's got an ounce of seichel in his head, he knows he's got 2 stages coming. He says, hey, I don't want to have Tzarat on my clothes. I've already got it on the house. And I certainly don't want to have it on my body. So now that I know something's afoot, I've done something wrong, I want to correct it. So what does a person do? He's already done the sin. As soon as he gets the warning, straight away he reacts. Oi, I did an Aveira, teshuvah. He does teshuvah. He says, I never want to do that sin again. I certainly don't want any of these other signs. I'm fed up with it. I don't want anything to do with it. He does teshuvah. What does Hashem say? You did teshuvah. Now you turned your Aveira into a mitzvah. A person who does, God forbid, does an Aveira, but he repents to Hashem out of love, that sin is erased. He can do teshuvah out of fear. You do teshuvah out of fear, the sin is erased as well. You do teshuvah out of love for Hashem, then not only is the sin erased, but the sin is turned into a mitzvah. Now you've done a mitzvah, here's your reward. It's quite simple. A person is a Baal teshuvah. He didn't want to do the sin, and he gets that knee-jerk reaction to the sin. Wait, I did a sin. Straight away, teshuvah. That's why he gets the goal. Reason number 2, and this involves another opinion as to why a person would get this tzarat manifestation on his house or on his clothing or on his body. Because the other opinion is that a person gets this tzarat because he's tsar ayin. What is tsar ayin? Tsar ayin means stinginess. Tsar means narrowing, like Mitzrayim. Ayin means eye. Your eye is myopic. You can't see past your own stinginess. You can't give. A person only likes to think of himself. They say that about Persians. I'm a Persian. I can't tell you how many jokes I've heard about Persians being miserly and stingy. I've heard most of them from Moroccans. They always tease me about being a Persian. But seriously speaking, to be stingy is not at all a very good midah. It's a midah we need to steer away from. A person mustn't be, of course, a person mustn't be a spendthrift, mustn't lash out, the money that Hashem gave him and use it for anything. But also a person that mustn't be hold back his money too much and keep it for what? You're supposed to have the middle path. This is one of the classic examples where you're not supposed to deviate right or left. Take the middle path. Don't spend too much money. Don't hold back too much money. Use money for the right purpose. So here, a person now is getting tzarat because he's stingy. He hasn't given his money. He hasn't circulated his money like he should be doing. What happens? He gets the tzarat. But there's another stage, there's another sub-level that happens at this house tzarat level. There's another sub-level. What happens when the person gets these blotches on the walls? He's commanded to go and take all the stuff out of his house, all the belongings, and chuck it out on the street. Because very soon, his beautiful house that he's been living in is going to be reduced to rubble. He's going to have the ball and chain knock out all the bricks and soon have a nice pile of rubble. So of course, you've got to take all the stuff out. So now what happens? People walking in the street, or his neighbors, or whoever, what do they see? Say, hey, look at Reuven. All his stuff is in the street. Oh, I never knew he had that. I thought he was a kamtan. I thought he was a miser. Now he's got all that stuff. What was he hoarding all that stuff for? He's walking around like a pauper, spending 2p on this and 5p on that, and people approaching him for tzedakah. Oh, I haven't got any money. We thought he had nothing. Look at all this stuff he's got there. Already that's part of his tikkun. Now people can see that he really was a kamtan. He had a lot and he wasn't giving it. So there's a lesson from that. Because money is meant to be circulated, meant to use the money for the reason that Hashem gave you the money. You're not supposed to have the money for money's sake. That's not what it's supposed to be for. Hashem gives you money for a reason. You're supposed to use it for yourself, but for your family. Give tzedakah, do chesed. So again, that's part of the tikkun. Now, when a person realizes he does teshuvah on that level, he sees everything out in the street, and now he's been a miser. Now, when they knock his house down and he finds the gold and everything, now again, that's also reparation, and shows him that, look, now you've got this money, now you're supposed to use this for the good. It's a slightly deeper reason. And reason number 3, which is a more like homiletic reason, and that's talking about the din of the house itself. Because what do you see when you're walking along a beautiful row of houses and you see one house that looks, it's horrible. It's got these brown or green, whatever it is, marks. It looks awful. Look at all these other beautiful houses. Then look at this one. It's the ugly duckling. It's the horrible, the black sheep of the family. So now what happens? You say, we have to ignore this house. Let's go and concentrate on the houses that are nice and beautiful and presentable, and people are affluent, they're living in these houses, and we'll ignore this house that's ugly and this isn't maintained and doesn't look good. The Torah is telling us, don't you write off this house that looks bad. Give it a little tap, knock it a bit, and you find gold underneath. A person, first of all, we've talked about this time and time again, a person should never judge anybody anyway. You're not supposed to judge people. If you find yourself maybe subconsciously judging somebody, you should always remember, it looks bad from the outside, person appears different, just scratch away at the surface a little bit and you'll find the gold. That's the haftarah from the Torah. Hashem's telling us, knock the house down, break it down, you'll find something precious inside. It's the same with every Jew. No Jew is a write-off. A person can be hiding behind these walls that they've built up around themselves. And underneath these walls, what are you going to find? You're going to find somebody who's cowering and terrified. And he can't face the world. If you just scrape away the surface, you're going to find something which is so beautiful, a Jewish neshama. No Jew deserves to be written off. No matter what they are, no matter what they've done. Simple as that. We find so many people, they've put up this veneer, and they're impenetrable. We should always realize that there is definitely, and the Torah is telling us, definitely going to be gold underneath. At the end of Parsha, I said I wasn't going to say anything from Parsha Tazria, but there is something here actually. Perek Yud Gimel, Pasuk Yud Gimel. This is interesting. V'ra'a Kohen, the Kohen sees, because the Kohen is the one who's got to check out all these things. Yeah, the Kohen's name is mentioned left, right, and center. Something like 40 or 50 times. His name is mentioned. The Kohen, the Kohen, the Kohen. V'ra'a Kohen v'hinei kisata hatzarat et kol basaro v'tihar et hanaga kulo hafach lavan tahorhu. This is another one of those ironies. If a person has a small nega on him, one of these spots, as we mentioned before, is considered impure. Says this Pasuk Yud Gimel, I'll translate it from the Art Scroll. The Kohen will look, and behold, the affliction has covered his entire flesh, and then he shall declare the affliction to be pure. Having turned completely white, it is pure. If you've got a spot in one place, you're impure. If it spreads over your whole body, you're pure. How does that work out? How do you understand that? Is it like the red heifer syndrome? That it's one of these ironies that the Kohen comes to pour the ashes on the impure person becomes pure, and the Kohen becomes impure. Nobody understands it. What is this? If he's got a small spot, he's impure. If it goes crazy and covers his whole body, now he's pure. How are you going to understand that? And another thing, we mentioned that the tzarat is a physical manifestation of a spiritual nature. What happens when a person becomes ill normally? God forbid. Well, there's a number of things that happen. First of all, if we're learning Torah, or if we're saying Tehillim, we mention their name, like we did at the beginning of the shir. Somebody gets ill, you daven for them. You mention their name. You dedicate your Torah learning or whatever to their refuah shalema. And what else happens? You go and you visit them. You do Bikur Cholim. 1/60 of the illness disappears when you do Bikur Cholim. But what happens in this case of a Matzorah? He gets this blotch on him. What do? We say, go to the Kohen. If he gives you the all clear, fair enough. But if not, it's bye-bye. Get out. You've got to wander around. Nobody cares about you. Go stay by yourself. Go be with it. If anything, you're not going to be with us. You're going to be with the other Matzorahs who are away. They're away from society. That doesn't sound right. Where's the prayer? Where's the Bikur Cholim? You're tempted. Imagine that. God forbid, lo aleinu, somebody suffers from a serious illness. You tell him, I don't want to see you. Get out. Go away. How do you understand that? Of course, nobody's suggesting that that's the case. But here with the tzarat, the reality is he's told to leave the camp. Khatam Sofer gives a beautiful chiddush here. Amazing, amazing insight here. He says, you know the difference between a person who has tzarat and somebody who does not have tzarat? It's like this. Well, let's talk about the original question. Let's talk about somebody who has tzarat in an isolated place, somebody who has a tzarat where it's gone out of control, it's all over his body. The person who has tzarat in one place, it's very easy. The person has tzarat all over his body. It's very easy to see that this person has tzarat. He's kulo matzorah. He's completely a matzorah from head to toe. If you see this person walking in the street, you know, whoa, this guy's, he's a full-on tzarat guy. This guy, we know, keep away from him. Not because you're going to catch something, because he's the type of guy you don't want to associate with. You must be telling Lashon Hara left, right, and center. So this guy, whoa, you keep your distance. But somebody's only got one spot. Could be on his hand, could be on his leg, could be wherever. That's not so easy to spot from a distance. Now this guy's got one spot. You might see him in the street, theoretically. Of course, the Matzorah has to go out, we said. But imagine if you see him in the street, you wouldn't know this is a person who's been speaking Lashon Hara, or who's stingy. And you speak to him, you get involved in conversation. And sooner or later, you say, hey, he's a nice guy, he's a great guy, nothing wrong with this guy. And you're talking to him, and then suddenly the Matzorah tells you a little bit of Lashon Hara, and then a bit more, and a bit more. And now you're trapped. Because you're associated with somebody who from the outside, he looks all right. He's a nice guy, great guy. You can have a conversation with this guy. He's good company. Those are the most dangerous. The person who's got the tzarat, but it's hidden. You can't see it. It's covered up, or it's in a place you just don't notice it. That's why we declare that person impure. Because it's not impure because he's more impure than the person who's got it from head to toe. We say he's impure because it's a warning sign, like that red light. This person because he's milrav, he's mixed up, you can't see, he looks good from the outside, but him you want to keep away from. We declare him impure. The person who's covered head to toe, nobody's going to want to mix with this guy. We all know that he's a Baal Aveira. Him, we don't need any warning sign. Him we declare pure. We're not going to declare him Tameh, because we know to keep away from him. I wanted to add on to what the Chatam Sofer says, if I can ever do such a thing. I want to suggest this is really the way of the Yetzer Hara. As we've said on previous occasions, the Yetzer Hara does not present himself to you as a complete Kulo Aveira, bad guy with red horns and the big, well, how do they portray him? With the big pitchfork and the fire everywhere, saying, come on, come with me, let's do every Aveira under the sun. That's not how he works. He never dresses himself like that. Because what are you going to do? You're going to take one look at him, turn around on your heels, and get out of there. Simple as that. So what does the Yetzer Hara do? He's cleverer than that. He's a malach after all. He's an angel. He's a very powerful angel. Because Hashem vested him with power to be able to challenge us. You think a Jew is a pushover? We need a malach to come and test us. Not anybody. A Jew's got so much potential, Hashem sends a powerful malach to come and test us. That's because we've got so much latent potential. So what happens? He doesn't come as a devil. He comes as a chassid. He comes as a tzaddik. He comes, he says to you, oh, Rebbe Yid, he says, in his frummest accent. He says, Rebbe Yid, I see you want to get up to go to shul. He said, what, you are an amazing person. You get up every day to go to shul. You get up 6:30 every morning. Aren't you entitled to a rest? A tzaddik like you get up every day for shul. You have to, today, go to the later minyan. You deserve a rest because you're a special guy. You can't burn yourself out. You've got to have some play time. It's all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. You can't, so have a bit of a lie in today. Or he says to the Avreich, wow, look at you going every day learning in Kollel, or the Bochor telling you learning in Yeshiva. Wow, you know what? It's time for you to get a coffee. Because you're learning all day, I can see your eyes are tired. Just go out. I'm not saying leave the, Chas v'chalei, I'm not telling you to leave the Yeshiva. Just go out, have a coffee, just relax for a few minutes. That's how he works on you. He makes a little pirza, a little hole. And he does it many, many, many times. And that's how he sucks the fluid out of you. He's not going to come and say to you, hey, come on, let's do an Aveira. Yalla, let's go. Because you would never entertain such a prospect. He comes at you subtly. He comes dressed as a tzaddik. Doesn't come dressed as Esav. He comes dressed as Yaakov. Those are the ones you've got to fear the most. The Yaakov who's really underneath, he's the Esav. The person you think is a tzaddik. That's why it's so critical that we live our lives with proper Da'at Torah. Because it's all these decisions. Who shall I trust? What way shall I go? How shall I act my life? You cannot make these decisions by yourselves. It's too big for you. You need Da'at Torah. You need a Rav who's trusted, who's known in the community, who's not, it doesn't make it out like he's a Kabbalist and he's going to charge you money to read your palm. Right? There are people like that still around. Yes, there are people like that still around. I know stories in my family. Baruch Hashem, I have a very wide family. In my wider family, I know there are people who've gone to these people and they've charged them money to give them all sorts of Kabbalistic advice. I would go to that rabbi and say, okay, who is your rabbi? Why are you charging money to give talismans or whatever it is, or reading Mizrah? I don't know. I'm not suspecting anybody specifically. I'm just saying, you've got to be very careful with this type of thing. There's a whole sefer that's written about this by Chacham Yaakov Hillel, all about the pitfalls of following people who are so-called Mekubalim. You want to go to a Kabbalist? Go to Chacham Yaakov Hillel. You want to do the Kabbalah? First, sit down, learn Shas and Poskim. Don't worry about the Kabbalah for now. You want Kabbalah? Go listen to Rabbi Tatz. That's good enough for you. Trust me, that's good. That's more than good enough for you. Like we said, Chacham Yaakov Hillel. Don't worry about anything more than that. Don't worry about writing Kamayas or reading your palm and all this business. Leave that aside. There's plenty within our world of Torah rather than going to these things. And Sephardim, unfortunately, are much more vulnerable because we like this type of stuff. I'm just as guilty. I love all the spiritual, all the hooji-wooji stuff. I love all that stuff, ghosts and spirits and all this. You've got to keep it under control. You've got to do everything with Das Torah. So the same thing here with the Yetzer Hara. You can't handle the Yetzer Hara when he's dressed up as Yaakov. You need a litmus test. What's your litmus test? You've got to go to your Rav. Go to a posek. Go to somebody who is trusted within the community. And he will help you. He will tell you whether he's really Yaakov or is Yaakov dressed up as, or is Esav dressed up as Yaakov. Rahman al-Atsan. Those are the ones you've got to be careful of. The ones with the little spot that's hidden, you can't even see it. Okay, I'm going to finish off now. One last point. If we go forward to Perek Yud Daled, which is back again in Metzora, Pasuk Gimel. Vayatza haKohen el michutz lamachaneh. V'ra haKohen v'hinei nirpan nega hatzarat min hatzarua. What happens? The Kohen's got to go out, outside the camp, because he's got to go and see this guy who's been set aside. Because there's a period where he's got to be set aside for a certain number of days. It's like almost like a quarantine period. And the Kohen's got to keep checking on him. It's not a simple case that you come and write to up and say, Tameh or Tahor, whatever it is. It's a process. So the Kohen's got to go out. He's got to look, and he sees whether the tzarat has been healed. And then he's got to say, he's got to declare him tahor. But the pasuk says something different. It says something extra. It says, V'nei nirpan nega hatzarat min hatzarua. And behold, where is it? What's the other the tzarat affliction has been healed from the Metzora. What do you mean the tzarat has been healed from the Metzora? Who else is the tzarat going to be healed from? Mr. Jones? Mr. Smith? Or the Cohen? It's the spot has been healed from the one who's got the thing. Of course, why do you have to tell me it's been healed from the one who's got the problem in the first place? I know it's not going to be healed from the ground. Why is it mentioned healed from the one who's suffering from it? And here's where I'm going to finish off. I'm going to tell you a joke that my brother Nathaniel told me while I was in Israel. And as usual, from a person who you hear a joke from a Talmud Chacham, it's not just a joke, you're supposed to laugh, ha ha. There's always a mussar behind it. And I was waiting for a moment when I could tell this joke, and I didn't have to wait too long. He told it to me in relation to something else, but here I think it fits in very perfectly here. Okay. In the ocean, there's a huge aircraft carrier. And the aircraft carrier has a full crew and many aircraft. And the captain, or the commander, I think they're called the commander of this vessel, his name is Commander Merriweather. Now, Commander Merriweather is a very officious person. He does everything by the book. And he's on top of the aircraft carrier. And he's looking with his big, powerful binoculars, and he sees in the distance a light coming towards him. Now, immediately he goes down and he gets his, whatever his Morse code guy or communications officer, and he says, right, send the communication straight to this vessel and warn him, you've got to move 10 degrees starboard. Otherwise, there's going to be collision. Straight away, the communications guy, he's typing. He says, you've got to move 10 degrees starboard, otherwise there's going to be collision. Gets no reply. So, okay, the light is getting nearer and nearer. Again, send the message again. Again, they send the message again. This time they get a reply. What's the reply? I can't move. Okay, they send a message. You have to move. I'm the commander of this aircraft carrier. I'm commanding you. You need to move 10 degrees to starboard. Otherwise, there's going to be a collision. He gets back a reply. I cannot move from my position. So now, this Commander Merriweather is getting extremely frustrated. He sends back one final message. He says, I am Commander Merriweather of the SS, whatever it's called, and I'm commanding you to take the course I have prescribed or face the consequences. He gets back a message. I am able-bodied seaman Cohen, and I am sending a message from the lighthouse. I am not moving. What do we understand from this joke? The problem with the Metzora is when he gets the tzaraat on the house and then on the clothes and finally on himself. What's his main problem? He fails to realize that the problem starts and ends with him. All the time he's pointing the finger. It's come on the house. Nothing to do with me. Can't be me. It's come on my clothing. This must be some sort of freak circumstance. Must be mold. Like on my house, I got mold on the house. And he gets on his body. What's going on? What have I eaten? What's happening here? Maybe I got some disease. He points the finger at everything except fairly and squarely on himself. The world has to change because of me. It just occurred to me actually, what's, again, the simple pshat behind what the Metzora suffers, it's Lashon Hara. What happens when a person says Lashon Hara? What's the message he's sending out? There's nothing more important than me. Because I am the center of the world. So I'm going to put him down so that I can maintain my position. You're not the center of the world. You can't point the finger and say, you change. It's your fault. You have to make the move. No. Point the finger at yourself. The Torah is telling us. That's the first thing you have to do. That's your first port of call. Don't change the direction. Don't go and start giving wild accusations. Point your moral compass at yourself. And if you do that, then you're going to be in as good a position as the Baal Teshuvah we mentioned earlier. The one who sees it on the house, straight away reacts. He's going to get the cache of gold. But the person who's always lashing out, is talking about other people, he doesn't care who he tramples on, that type of person is the person who will get the tzaraat on his body. He's the one who we have to throw him out of the camp. Why is that different from the regular person who's ill? We go, we visit him, we daven for him. Because we need to send that person out of the camp because he's got to sit by himself. He can't blame anybody else. He can't go and start loshing about this one and that one and arguing and whatever it is he's doing, he's got to sit Yoshev Badad. He's got to sit by himself. Nobody's going to listen to him. He can't point the finger. He's got to sit by himself. Solitary confinement. Once he does that, once he can live with himself, once he goes into himself, then the Kohen comes back and he stands a chance to be declared Tahor. Under no circumstances will he be declared Tahor until he internalizes this message. Yeh Ratzon. All of us should internalize this message. We need to look at ourselves first and foremost, correct ourselves. Maybe that's why Mashiach is not here now. Maybe that's why I had to come back to England and all the people had to come back and carry on life as normal. Maybe that's why people didn't all come and join us in Eretz Yisrael. We didn't have the Biat Gol Tzedek. Because we've got to point the finger at ourselves. We've got to become more of a community. We need the protection the community affords us. And maybe that's another reason why he goes outside the camp. To show that you were not a part of your community. I've heard this before. You are not a part of your community. You're not an asset to your community. If you talk about other people, if you put yourself down, if you're miserly, you're not giving your money, you're not doing chesed like you should be doing. So you get out of the camp. Now you see what it's like to be alone. Now you resolve your problem alone. You see, you need your community. Don't turn your back on your community. Don't turn your back on your friends. You need your friends and you need your community. And each Jew needs each other. Yeh Ratzon. We should not wait any longer for the Geula. We should have it right now. We should all turn to each other. Learn the positive lessons from the Torah. That we need to join together. We don't turn our back. We turn towards each other. We focus in. All of us in. And who is in the middle of the circle? None other than the Ribono Shel Olam. Yeh Ratzon. We should witness this great day when we're all surrounding Hashem. And we're all part of the same Kehillah. In our hearts and in our minds. With Mashiach Tzidkenu in the Biat Gol Tzedek in Yerushalayim. Ir HaKodesh with the Binyan Ariel. V'chein Yosam v'namar Amen.